I think it's fantastic to be here in Bordeaux. We've got the ESDR 2019 meeting, annual meeting, but it moves around Europe. And I think it's great that we have it in France. It's great that we have it in this part of France, not necessarily in one of the really big cities. And the weather is fantastic. Obviously, as a dermatologist, I want to advocate they shouldn't be out in the sun. They should be sitting in the meetings and hearing all the great science that's being presented. But no, we're absolutely delighted to be here. The main goals of the meeting is that we bring together the international community of skin researchers. And it's not just European. There are a significant number of non-Europeans attending this meeting, the United States, from Japan, from other countries. So I think what the ESDR has established over the recent years is it's an international community presenting cutting-edge skin science, new ideas, new hypotheses. But of course, it's not just about the science, it's about the networking. It's bringing together that group of individuals to discuss collaborations and exchange of fellowships and ideas. The Skin Science Foundation is a very new idea. It came out of a strategy meeting that the ESDR held in 2016. What are the new directions of travel? What are the new experiments, if you like, that the ESDR as an organization wanted to be involved with? And we could see the way that skin care and health care in general is changing. We know that health itself is dictated not just by the health care or even by genetics. It's actually dictated in a large part by environment and behavior. And that's got people thinking about, well, how can you change health more easily? And that's actually by changing behavior, by changing environment, and moving towards a construct that's known as wellness. So if you think about it, it's looking more at disease prevention than disease treatment. So there's a paradigm shift occurring across the whole of healthcare, but dermatology should be at the forefront of that, where we're moving from what it currently is, which is reactive. Patient comes to see me, tells me their symptoms, I find out what's wrong with them, to proactive, where I'm contacting the patient and saying, well, on this information that we have on you, and I'll tell you about that in a moment as to how we've got that, we should be intervening earlier on to prevent you getting complications of psoriasis or whatever else. And the reason that's happened is because there's three what we call mega trends which are affecting the way we view healthcare. Systems medicine, where we start to look at an individual as we should do, as an individual, a person, rather than just a single gene or a single cell or a single cytokine. A human being is a very complex individual. We're starting to do that now, and the mathematicians are involved in science, in biology. We have big data. We talk about big data for a long time, but big data is allowing us to really crunch huge amounts of information about an individual and integrate all that information. And thirdly, we have these sort of Fitbit type measurement devices where we can get constantly streamed information on an individual. Bringing these together, we can then start to look at an individual in a way that we'd call not just personalized medicine, but P4 medicine. So prevention, prediction, personalized, and also participatory. So it's that holistic approach to personalized care, and next generation healthcare is allowing us to do that, so to prevent disease or prevent the consequences of disease. So in psoriasis, preventing a person with psoriasis from getting psoriatic arthritis, preventing them from getting cardiovascular disease. And that is a much more economic way of managing health than actually treating the disease once it's occurred. And that's what we're hoping to do with the ESDR, working with three organizations, Galderma, Celgene and Leo, in this partnership called the Skin Science Foundation that sits outside the ESDR but is connected to it. We have that information on individuals so we can see these trends occurring. So what are the actionable opportunities on an individual where we can prevent them, maybe even getting a certain skin disease or preventing getting the consequences of that. And you can only do that with the modern technologies. We could never have done that before. And part of that also is intervening from a psychological point of view. So it's motivational interviewing, getting people to stop smoking, getting the people to lose weight, exercise more. All of those things contribute to overall health, and actually improve or prevent skin disease. Well, the short-term goal is that we founded it, we've launched it in the World Congress of Dermatology in Milan, Italy, about in June of this year. So that's just 3 months ago, and we are already investing in bringing together omics information from databases, working with Dr. Richard Scheumann and his team at the Craig Venter Institute in La Jolla, California. We have a person being appointed to the post who's starting to look at initially in psoriasis. What are the databases that we have available? What's the information? How can we bring this together in a publicly accessible format? Well, I've always been a very strong advocate of leadership. I think, in my generation, we sort of absorbed it as we went along. There was no training about how to be a leader. You just sort of learnt it. And I don't think that is, really the way to do things in the 21st century. So as part of the ESDR initiative several years ago, back in 2011, we set up a Future Leaders Academy, where we identified from applicants from around Europe who are going to be the future leaders in skin science in Europe over the coming years, 10, 20 years. And that's now been running for 8 years now. We have over 200 graduates of that Future Leaders Academy. But what we're very conscious of is that we've identified these individuals, we've provided them with some mentoring, but we have not given them the tools to actually be a good leader and to improve their leadership capabilities. And so the popular request from those graduates, from the board, I was tasked with putting together a bespoke leadership training program for our identified future leaders. And I'm delighted that we are launching that training program here at this meeting, actually just in a few hours' time. It is going to be led, also I'm delighted, by the fact it's being led by Professor Naomi Chambers, who's a professor of healthcare management based at the University of Manchester Business School. We put out a request for applicants. We had a very high caliber field of applicants. We've selected 16 who are going to be in this first program of bespoke leadership training. Most of them are at the ESDR meeting. Professor Chambers is here as well, and then she's going to start to working with them on individual characteristics and capabilities, and then have a face-to-face meeting of the whole group in Manchester later in the year. Well, what we hope to do is to be able to understand what is the leadership characteristics of any one individual and be able to optimize those, to make them fit for purpose for leading a research group, leading a clinical academic team, maybe even leading the ESDR in the future. And we're gratified to see that some of our early identified future leaders are now actually in leadership positions in European dermatology. In fact, one of them is just joined our ESDR board, and that's 8 years after identifying her as a future leader. So we're obviously making the right choices, but we want to make sure that they've given the tools to really maximize their opportunity.